Saturday, everyone. Boy, oh boy, you guys are going to get sick of me in the next 72 hours because we have got 3 straight days of big-time streaming going on here on the channel, kicking things off today with your wingy. And we've got a big one to talk about today because last night, Randy Orton on SmackDown turned heel and beat the ever-loving piss out of Cody Rhodes, leaving him in a pool of his own blood, even our first chair shot to the head that we've seen in I don't know how long. And the whole contract signing segment was just a wonderful piece of business, and I really like how this went down. However, it's not without its problems because the crowd reaction last night was very different, I'm sure, than what WWE was expecting. So we're going to talk about what this Randy Orton heel turn means and how it now sets up WrestleMania. And now, thankfully, we are not facing our 2 WrestleMania main events with 4 baby faces. We finally got a heel in there, and Cody and Randy Orton now I think has the potential to be a really, really awesome and fun WrestleMania program, provided the fans cooperate, and if they don't, WWE, they adapt and adjust where necessary when it comes to how the fans are going to react, because this is a Vince-less WWE. And the last time we kind of had a situation like this with a babyface that was being loudly booed over everyone he faced, WWE had tunnel vision with John Cena, and it did not matter how the fans were going to react. They were going to go in the direction they wanted to go in, and that is a big turn off to a lot of fans. So since the crowd is reacting a little bit differently, I hope WWE understands that, reacts to it, and adjusts accordingly into this WrestleMania build so we can have ourselves a really fun match and a really fun, what I'm assuming is a night 1 main event. And I'm hoping that, you know, with Cody and Randy being at the helm here and WWE's, you know, creative isn't too much in the shitter with this thing, that they can go out there on night 1, and when they come through the curtain after their match, they're going to look right at Punk and Roman Reigns and say, follow that. That's what I'm hoping happens here with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes heading into WrestleMania. But we're going to talk all about last night's SmackDown, specifically the contract signing and what Drew McIntyre did. Beyond that, really not much on SmackDown last night at all worth talking about, but we will get into all the results. In addition to that, we're going to preview this coming Monday's Monday Night Raw. Also, we got a little bit of wrestling news to get into. We've got some WrestleMania news on the watch parties and some of the WrestleMania promotion that they've been doing. Also, we've got the WWE and ESPN story about WWE killing the letter grades and some of their reviews. We got a passing that we just learned about internally in WWE. Former international touring manager passed away. Triple H just posted a tweet about that less than an hour ago. We'll talk about that, as well as TNA signing Candice Michelle. Also, Nino Henbergesa has been terminated, released by AAA due to a fan incident at an indie show. We'll get into that. And, of course, the big story floating around in the last 24 hours is what happened to referee Dallas Edwards in OVW, getting injured and suffering a seizure right there in the ring, and it was handled very, very poorly. We've got some updates on that, statements from Dallas, statements from Al Snow, statements from the wrestlers involved. So we'll get into that and talk about that ugly situation in OVW this week. And then we will run through a little bit of this week's Dynamite, but the show is basically obsolete. Revolution is tomorrow, but I do want to talk a little bit about that experimental press conference thing they did with MJF and Hangman that I did not like, to be honest, but there was a tremendous fucking match on Dynamite this week. I think Fletcher and Mike Bailey had Match of the Year, TV Match of the Year candidate last year. They went ahead and did the same thing again on Dynamite on Wednesday. That was great. And then to close out today's podcast, we are going to predict all of tomorrow's Revolution, which on the main card alone, I believe there are 10 matches, and there's 3 on the 0 hour. So we've got a 13-match card tomorrow, and we're going to be here watching all of it, and we're going to stick around and review it. So we got a big weekend. We're here today. We're here tomorrow for Revolution. We're going to be here Monday night as well for Raw. And it's going to be a weekend here on the channel. So let me just say a few hellos on the in the chat here, and then we will dive into what we are going to do today. I do have to work this evening, but we got pretty good amount of time here to get this podcast in, well over 2 hours. So we should be able to fit in all of our news in the allotted time. And then you're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more of me tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's going to be a long one. My God, we're probably looking at close to a 5-hour pay-per-view, and then we're going to be here for a solid hour or more reviewing it. So if you like bald dudes who talk about wrestling it's your lucky day because you're going to get a lot of me this week. Let's see what we got here. It's good to see Tatanani and Melissa and Ryan Adams. We've got Gilbert Arbalo, Red Raven Rucker, Jay Lambo, Handsome Steve Jacobson. That makes two of us. David Brown is in the house. We've got Jim K here as well. Mike Rouse, Coco Anarchy, Ricky Zalbadar, Isaac, William Cullen, Joel Drums, what up? Chaz Medeiros, good to see you. Daniel, what up? My boy is here. We got Ben Espinoza. Did I get you already? Sometimes I say shout-outs 2 times because I have a bad memory. We have Ian Dunn in the house as well, and a couple of super chats. $20 drop from our boy Ryan Adams. Thank you so much for that, my friend. Randy doesn't want sportsmanship. He said he wanted Drew because it would be easier, so this attack was already in motion. No matter who it was, it's also kind of crazy that this will be Cody's 4th Mania main event and only Orton's 3rd. That is kind of wild because Cody didn't main event when he debuted at WrestleMania 38, but 39, 40, 41, and now 42. He is going to main event. Although this will end his streak of 3 straight Night 2 main events, right? Because I'm pretty sure Randy Orton and Cody is going to main event Night 1 unless WWE decides to switch shit up, but it looks like Cody and Randy is scheduled to be Night 1. Now, I am going to get into all of that, Randy's motivation and what all that means here in just a minute, but you're exactly right, because Randy said it himself. This was supposed to be easy, and Cody made it hard, so we're going to get into all that. Also, my boy Daniel Mendolia, good to see you. Are you going to Revolution tomorrow? Thanks for the 5. It's been a while since I caught a live stream and busy with life. But just wanted to say hi. Hope all is well with you and Elizabeth. Good to see you in here, Daniel. Yes, everything is going great for us as usual here. And yeah, busy life stuff. I get it. You know, if you don't have a YouTube channel and you don't feel obligated to come up here and talk about wrestling, sometimes you kind of take a break from it because, you know, life happens to all of us. But glad you're in here, man. Good to see you. Also, Titanium Titan, Lil Bud J, Shell Shock, anybody else chiming in here, saying hello in the chat. Good to see you. I will get back to more hellos and super chats in a little bit. But before we get into the news, I want to let you guys know what to expect this weekend. Like I said, this is one of 3 straight days of streaming here. And you're going to be seeing a lot of me anyway, since we are right in the middle of WrestleMania season. But in addition to today's podcast, let me straighten out. There we go. In addition to today's podcast, we are going to be back tomorrow for an AEW Revolution watch along and review. We're going to be here watching what's going to be a very, very long card tomorrow. Like I said, 13 matches if you include the pre-show or the 0 hour. And we're probably looking at a 5-hour show minimum. Then we're going to stick around and review it. So eat your Wheaties, take your energy shots, whatever you need to do tomorrow, because it's going to be a long one here on the channel. We will go live about 15 minutes before the main card starts. We're not going to watch any 0 hour shit. That's going to be too long, but we will be here right before the main card starts. I currently have this scheduled at 7:45 Eastern, 4:45 Pacific. And then on Monday, we're going to be here as well for a Raw review because we have both Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in the house. I'm hoping that Brock Lesnar's open challenge will be answered, and Roman Reigns has got to issue his receipt to CM Punk that I think is going to come in the form of some sort of a comment about Larry the Dog. Also, Intercontinental title on the line for the women, AJ Lee defending against Bayley, and a lot more WrestleMania setup probably on tap for Monday. So that's what we've got going on. Make sure you join us over the next 2 days for that stuff. I think we should dive into stuff here right there on the screen. You see what we're going to open with. We're going to open with our SmackDown review because it was a big one. The closing segment was a massive one, and it was the full-blown Randy Orton heel turn on Cody Rhodes. So what I think we're going to do is kind of go in order here on SmackDown. Instead of opening with this Randy thing, let's talk about the Drew McIntyre stuff first. So Drew McIntyre opened up the show last night, basically Bret Hart night after the Rumble in 1997 style. Bret Hart came out on Raw, pissed off because he threw Stone Cold out. Stone Cold came back in the ring, eliminated Bret, went on to win the Royal Rumble. Bret got screwed at It's Time the previous month before. He's getting super frustrated. He gets in the ring. He's screaming, yelling at Gorilla Monsoon, yelling at Vince McMahon, one of the earliest hints, or I guess not hints, but acknowledgments from WWE that Vince was the owner when Bret says, I've been screwed by Gorilla Monsoon, the World Wrestling Federation. He points at Vince and he goes, I've been screwed by you. So he was upset and he just decides to quit. So he quits, and that's when Austin comes out and talks smack, and then Brett unquits. Well, they basically did the exact same thing here tonight with Drew McIntyre. He crashes the show right when it opens up, grabs the mic, hops over the barricade, stands on the announce desk, demanding that Nick Aldis comes out and make things right. But Aldis comes out and says, there's nothing to make right. Fuck off. And that's when Jacob Fatu comes out and said, I did what I did to make it right because you are not WWE champion anymore, and what are you going to do about it? And Drew said, well, what I'm going to do about it is I'm going to quit. I quit. And he walks off and he storms out. So he quits. Backstage, Jacob's kind of upset about Drew quitting, and then Trick Williams shows up, so Aldis books a match later between Trick and Jacob, which we'll talk about in a minute. I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to name the names here in this match because Sean Ross Sapp posted a tweet today that his on Fightful's YouTube channel, they got their SmackDown review pulled due to the name of Solo Sikoa's faction and how it tends to sound like another name of a particular thing that you can trade or whatever. And whatever it was, it violated some sort of a policy. So I'm just not even going to mention the name of this stupid faction. This dumb lantern crap has been going on for something like 5 months now. It was Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan versus Solo Sikoa and Tala Tonga. Howdy and Rowan got the win. Nikki Cross briefly gains control back of the lantern, gives it to Uncle Howdy, but then after the match, Tama Tonga hits him with like a hidden blade and steals the lantern back. So the lantern shit is still going on. Deep breaths. Is there anything across the entire landscape of wrestling that interests you less than this dumb shit? I do not give a crap about anything going on between these two factions at all, and it's been going on for 5 months. And the lantern stuff, whatever. Anyway, moving on from the lantern shit. Also last night, Jade Cargill defeated Michin. After the match, she gets on the mic to talk a little bit of shit to Rhea Ripley, who then surprises everyone by showing up. We didn't think she was on the show. She comes out. Jade leaves. Ripley gets in the ring, barks back a little bit, and says that at WrestleMania, Jade's going to be her bitch. So we haven't gotten anything too juicy out of these women yet since the little Twitter beef. I don't know if WWE has decided just to tone it down or cool their jets a bit or say, hey, let's keep this a little bit more traditional. And it doesn't look like they're going to lean in or play into that beef very much at all from where we sit right now. But just a little bit of an interaction there with Jade and Rhea. At some point, this is going to have to get physical. And I'm assuming at some point also we're probably going to get on SmackDown a contract signing between these two women before we get to WrestleMania. We get more Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn stuff backstage. Cody with the glasses on cracked me up a little bit. And he's really kind of getting annoyed with Sami. He's not really wanting to engage with this bitchy-ass bitch known as Sami Zayn. And after that, of course, Zayn is then approached by Aleister Black and Zelina Vega, who continue to egg him on a little bit. And I just think it's absolutely hysterical how WWE, I don't know if they think their audience is stupid or if they just don't care or whatever, but they literally just replaced Karrion Kross and Scarlett with Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. They released Kross, or wait, his contract came up. He wasn't released. Contract, I guess, wasn't renewed. They didn't bring him and Scarlett back, even when it was looking like they might. And now that they have Aleister Black and Zelina, you don't really need two of these acts doing the same thing. We kind of had this assumption when Black first came back, and then when Zelina turned and joined him, I'm like, well, we already got Kross and Scarlett doing that. I don't think there's room for two unless you want to put them on opposite brands, let them be each other's counterpart, and build to a Mania match. That actually might be fun. But instead, they just booted out Kross and Scarlett and replaced them with Black and Zelina. That's half annoying and half funny all at the same time. Like WWE, just the shit they do. So it's the same exact thing that Kross was doing to Sami. Now it's Black doing it. Same exact thing. So again, what I think this is going to result in is something, I'm hoping that this is some long-term story that they're telling based on where Saudi Arabia is, or where WrestleMania is currently scheduled to be next year in Saudi Arabia, assuming everything is safe over there. But if that plan is still going to be in place and we've got WrestleMania in Saudi next year, this is a perfect way to set up Sami on a story to finish his story. And you can do that in a lot of different fun ways. You could even, if you wanted to, maybe try to do a Hart Foundation or Bret Hart USA Canada type of thing. Maybe Sami's a heel here in the US, but when he goes to WrestleMania and wins the title, he wins it with like a hero's ovation or welcome or something like that. So they might be able to do that. I don't know, but it feels like this has got to be something that's going to take about a year. And this could result in Sami winning that Royal Rumble next year. But this is going to be a long road of him bothering the shit out of people. And then, of course, whatever's going on with Aleister Black as well. And that's going to lead to an eventual match between them or whatever. It's going to be a long road. But it feels like this is something to set up Sami's big story for next year. So we will keep our eye on that. We have been wondering, where the Bella twins were. Honestly, I don't even mean this in a bad way. I was kind of hoping WWE forgot. I was hoping they forgot. I wouldn't put it past them to forget. Hey, we brought the Bellas back, remember? Oh, fuck, I forgot. Remember Triple H? They had the thing on Raw, the promo on Raw when they came back and they said they want to go after the tag team titles, and Hunter's like, oh, man, I forgot we fucking did that. Well, better call them up, bring them to TV. I guess that's what happened here because the Bellas came out on SmackDown to hang out at ringside while they watched Nia Jax and Lash Legend versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. This thing ended in a no contest when the Bellas got involved. Nia actually pulled Nikki Bella right in the path of a Charlotte boot and then shoved Brie Bella down. So this whole thing was just a big schmoz. So I think this is, like I said, weeks ago when the Bellas first announced that they were back and targeting the women's tag team titles, I said they cannot defeat the Kabukis or Nia Jax, Lash Legend straight up. That absolutely, or not the Kabukis, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. I was like, I will quit the business. I will quit YouTube. I will never watch wrestling again if that happens. I mean, that's how strongly I felt about it. So the only way these girls are going to win those fucking titles is if it's some sort of a multi-team bullshit affair. And I think that's what they're going to wind up setting up here at WrestleMania. I'm assuming it's going to be a 4-way tag for the women's involving these 3 teams and another team, or it could just be a 3-way, but I think a 4 corners match usually works best for this type of thing, but you never know. But I feel like the Bellas are going to wind up getting a multi-team tag team title shot at WrestleMania and winning the titles, which is, if you're going to put the belts on the Bellas, at least WWE probably realizes the same thing we do. They can't beat Rhea and Io, and they can't beat Nia and Lash. But you stick them in there with 6 other women, and they get a fluke pin on someone. That's how they're going to be able to win those tag team titles. It's the only thing that's going to make sense. So I feel like that's where we are headed there. Damian Priest and R-Truth getting a little warm up. They're number 1 contenders right now. They took on Los Garza. Because Los Garza did all the work in the gauntlet match last week, Priest actually agreed with that, so they agreed to give him a match here, and Priest and Truth were successful. Danhausen is back. He's backstage with The Miz, his mentor. He shows him his Danhausen shirt, which is currently, I guess, the top seller in the company right now, beating out even Punk and Cody. So Danhausen is right off the bat leading the league in merch sales in WWE, which is hilarious. He says that The Miz should wear his shirt out on Miz TV today when he has his special guest Jelly Jam. But Miz doesn't want anything to do with that, so Miz gets cursed. And then we go out to Miz TV, and his guest is Jelly Roll. And we've been hearing about Jelly Roll potentially coming back into the company. There's been reports all week that WWE is looking to bring Jelly Roll back and probably have him be involved in some sort of a WrestleMania match. Well, they're probably setting some of this shit up now on Miz TV because Jelly Roll was there. Kit Wilson shows up, yells at Jelly Roll for losing all the weight, calls him fat phobic, and then Jelly Roll goes to punch Kit Wilson. Kit moves, and Miz gets punched instead, so the curse is already in effect for the Miz. And there's been a lot of talk about Jelly Roll being in some sort of a tag team match at WrestleMania, and looks like it could be with the Miz and Kit Wilson. It might be Jelly Roll and Danhausen, or it might be Jelly Roll and Royce Keys. Heard a rumor about that over the last day. I think you've all seen the same rumor. Potentially Miz and Kit Wilson versus Jelly Roll and Royce Keys. Now, granted, we haven't seen Royce Keys. He's been working main event. We haven't seen him on the main roster yet since the Royal Rumble debut. I wouldn't worry too much about that. These are conversations that we always have. Seems like if somebody comes in or makes a hasty debut and then they're not seen for a while, where are they at? You know, I'm like, they're probably nowhere. It's fine. Everything's fine. You know, weren't we asking this about Jade Cargill? Where's Jade? They brought her in for all this money. Where is she? Well, she's currently WWE Women's Champion right now. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think the biggest issue is WWE just debuting him in the Royal Rumble. If they just wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't be worried too much about it. We'd just be like, okay, they're developing Royce Keys, getting him ready, or Powerhouse or whatever, and they're going to bring him in when ready. But since he debuted at the Rumble, fans are just thinking he's going to be on TV every week, and he hasn't been, and now we're wondering where he is. So I feel like WWE should have just not debuted him in the Rumble at all. I felt like it was kind of pointless. I would have rather just ran vignettes for him and then had him debut on TV. Just do that. So if it is going to be Royce Keys, I don't know how you work him into this situation. And with Danhausen, I'm not sure if they're really ready yet to put him in the ring, like Danhausen having a WrestleMania match. I don't know if that's such a good idea, but I want Danhausen to have a presence at WrestleMania, and I even think it might be fun if he was the host. I don't think they're going to do a host. If they were going to do a host, we would have known about it by now. But I'm hoping that Danhausen does something very fun at WrestleMania. And at some point, probably after WrestleMania, maybe before, it could still happen before, I need Danhausen and CM Punk in a segment backstage. It's got to happen. Also last night, Tiffany Stratton defeated Kiana James, who I am rapidly becoming a big fan of, really liking Kiana James. And we had that match that I mentioned earlier between Fatu and Trick Williams. And this is where Drew McIntyre showed back up. So Trick Williams is taking on Fatu, and Drew, who quits, shows back up and helps Trick Williams get the win over Jacob Fatu. And then Nick Aldis comes out and he books Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu for next week's SmackDown. Not WrestleMania. So where do you think now, or what do you think Drew is going to do? What do you think Drew and Jacob are going to do at WrestleMania? Because we all assumed they were going to be facing each other. Now, I still think there's a really good chance they are going to face each other, and I've got a suggestion. Maybe you do a Hell in the Cell between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania. Like if they do Drew and Jacob next week, and I'm assuming that match is not going to go well. Something's going to go wrong. Drew is going to do something fucked up, or I don't know. Whatever's going to happen, I don't know if we're going to really get a winner out of that. And that might prompt then Aldis to book a bigger match with a stipulation for WrestleMania. So Drew, last time he was in a big Hell in the Cell match, he lost. I mean, honestly, maybe if it's Drew and Fatu at Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, maybe Drew needs to win that. I know fans would hate the sound of that, but maybe that's what he needs. I don't know where you go with Drew from here. He's already quit before. He's already gone through this before. It feels like everything Drew is doing has been a lot of redundancy and repetitive, and a lot of what he's doing he's already done, especially when it comes to his frustration and how he's so close to winning championships and it's taken away from him. We just go through this all the time with him, and I don't really know what you do next with McIntyre. The only thing I can think of is what I suggested for Cody when he eventually goes heel, and then that is maybe having him head up a faction. Maybe he recruits one of his own. Maybe he goes on to lead Judgment Day. I don't know what he does, but maybe at this point, since Drew keeps getting fucked over, maybe logic would tell him, I better have some boys backing me up. You know, I keep getting screwed, so if I have got, a shield around me, no pun intended there, maybe that can help me accomplish what I need to accomplish. Just a thought. But I think next week with Jacob and Drew was probably just going to lead to a WrestleMania match, because at this point, there's no getting this Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton match is not going to be turning into a four-way. It's going to be one-on-one. We can pretty much guarantee that now. So now we know that answer. So it's going to have to be Drew and Jacob in a stip at WrestleMania would be my guess. And I'm hoping that comes in the form of Aldis just getting super pissed next week at what transpires, and then he makes just a hasty decision. Now, Hell in the Cell would be great, but you could do Falls Count Anywhere, Last Man Standing. You could do all sorts of stuff between those two. I would do Fatu and Drew with a stip at Mania. Feels like the direction we're heading in. And now, finally, we can talk about what you see on the screen now that we've been talking for nearly 30 minutes, and I've not even brought up what we're looking at there. And if you didn't see SmackDown last night, you're like, what the hell happened to Cody Rhodes? Did he fall and then tumble over the stairs and bloodied himself up, and this is just Randy Orton running over to help him? No, that's not what happened. What happened last night on SmackDown was we had a contract signing for the WWE title match at WrestleMania between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Nick Aldis was in there. They had a nice table. They both sat down, not on opposite sides. They sat down on the same side, like riding the bus. That's what we call it in the restaurant business. If you have like a booth, a table for four, or even just two chairs on each side, table for four, and you only seat it two top there, and the two people sit next to each other for some reason. That would be really weird, but we call that riding the bus. And some people do it. You'll see a couple and they'll sit down next to each other, and then the two chairs across from them are empty, and they're just eating. Like, who eats like that? You sit across from your person, Anyway, so they rode the bus when they did the contract signing there. And Cody Rhodes had a lot of nice things to say about Randy, talked a lot about their history, and said, I'm not your brother. I'm not your what do you say? I'm not your brother or your son. But I've always been proud to be your boy. And this was all really great because Cody is talking and Cody's just being Cody. Cody's being the same Cody that he is in every match. He has a lot of respect for Randy Orton. These two guys have already faced, don't forget, they were finalists, I believe, in the King of the Ring, right? And and Cody won. Was it last year? I think it was just last year, right? Was it Cody beating Randy? And that's what got him the match against John Cena at SummerSlam. Do I have that right? So these guys have already had like kind of the babyface match. And that's what I was talking about when Randy won the Chamber. I'm like, look, if this is going to be one-on-one, you got to do something else because we've just seen this and it feels like it's hastily thrown together and there hasn't been like a long build or tease or breadcrumb trail leading to this big moment from Randy Orton. It feels like WWE kind of changed their mind a few times, took the belt off of Drew McIntyre and said to themselves, well, let's just do this. And I don't like that because that just creates creative discombobulation. It means you don't really know what you're doing. You're flying by the seat of your pants, going by day, and you shouldn't be doing that for WrestleMania programs. So last night, seeing Randy and Cody in there, you knew this couldn't just be the same match we got at King of the Ring. Something's got to happen either here or leading up to Mania or in the Mania match itself. But I also think something big between CM Punk and Roman Reigns is going to go down in their Mania match. So if you were going to save this Randy Orton heel turn, for example, for the pay-per-view or for WrestleMania, you might not want to do that same type of finish into back-to-back main events at WrestleMania one night after the other. So Cody, goes on to say his piece, and then Randy Orton, who the whole time is just kind of listening to him, like this look on his face, like, this guy does not get it, and that's exactly what Randy said, and he kind of stands up from the table, and he tells Cody, he goes, you just don't get it, you don't get it, and the final line that he delivered to Cody Rhodes was really telling because he said, this wasn't supposed to be hard, this was supposed to be easy, it was supposed to be Drew out here, what do you expect me to do? And that's when Cody says, oh, yeah, Cody just gets up. Yeah, I do. I know. You're the legend killer. And, I already know all of this, Randy Orton. And Randy Orton's like still kind of shaking his head. He's like, you still don't get it. Still don't get it. So Cody is, basically cuts Randy off saying, no, I know I'm going to get the legend killer. And I know what the rules are and what the stakes are in a match like this. And no matter what, I will always love you. And so Randy Orton says, fine. Signs his name on the contract, shakes Cody Rhodes' hand, hugs him, and then slams his fucking head right on the table. And then Cody is staggered, and then Randy Orton kicks a 60-yard fucking field goal right in the penis of Cody Rhodes. And he goes down. Everybody's like, oh, what the fuck? Randy then proceeds to beat the hell out of Cody Rhodes, busting him wide open, and ramming him into the steps, and there's this great shot where he's kind of like holding Cody in his arms like over the barricade, which I used for the thumbnail here. And Cody by this point is just bleeding like profusely. He's got the chair or the stairs leaned up against the announce table with Cody Rhodes laying inside of it. Randy then runs over to the timekeeper's area, grabs a steel chair, stands on the table, and basically kind of delivers like a concerto type of thing to the face of Cody Rhodes and completely demolishes him. Now, Jelly Roll was out there, trying to help out, and the funniest part was Cody reaching for Jelly Roll. Jelly, grab my hand, Jelly Roll. So the reaching for Jelly Roll part was fucking hilarious. But the beatdown was brutal, and I loved it because you could, Randy basically told Cody, this was supposed to be easy. This wasn't supposed to be hard. Drew was supposed to be sitting here, and I would have no problem doing to Drew what I'm about to do to you. And Cody is just kind of, his obliviousness to this is pretty funny because Cody thinks he knows. No, I know who you are, Randy. We get in the ring, you're going to be the legend killer. You're going to be the Viper. You don't have to warn me. I know who you are, but Cody still didn't get it. Randy was going to murder whichever person's name was on the other side of that contract. Whoever's name was over there was going to have this happen to him. So it wasn't like Randy's been planning this for months against Cody. Randy didn't really want to do it. But Randy is Randy. Randy is the legend killer. Randy is a rascal. And Randy will do what he has to do to secure that 15th championship that now, he's going to be in a WrestleMania main event again, which I think Ryan pointed out is only his third in all his 4 years in the company, while Cody has had 4 in a row just in the last 4 years. So Randy Orton turning into this sadistic, now last week, remember he was out there in the bright blue shirt. Now he's got the black one on, the RKO Everybody shirt. And he put a hurting down on Cody Rhodes, and I really like that. Now, one thing we got to talk about is the reaction from the audience last night. It was like, when Becky Lynch turned on Charlotte, right, at that SummerSlam, whatever year that was. It had to be 2018 because that's when the Becky Lynch shit all popped off. So it must have been SummerSlam 18 or 2018 when Becky was, I guess, heel against Charlotte. Is that what it was? And then Becky was face against Charlotte. Charlotte beat her. Maybe it was a babyface match. Was that what it was? And then Becky turned on her. But the crowd loved it. They fucking loved it. And with Randy Orton, the entire time, he's laying down one of the most vicious beatdowns in modern Disney PG WWE, and the fans are loving it. The fans are absolutely loving it. And that's because I think there's a little bit of Cody fatigue happening, and plus they were excited to see this. And Randy Orton, is a pretty awesome character. And the fans are reacting opposite to what WWE kind of wants. Now, we've been in this boat before. This is kind of the way the business has been when the creative sucks, when there's uninspiring creative. And WWE has got, gaping issues in their booking. The fans will tend to gravitate to who the coolest people are. Back in the 90s, when Stone Cold Steve Austin got over, look at what was around him at that time. You were still having the silly gimmicks, and, just the silly, childish, cartoony vibe of the company, and here you got this guy that does not give a fuck about anything, and they gravitated to that. They cheered for him. He had to change very little about himself. Transitioning from heel into babyface, he just got to stay himself. The fans liked that. They gravitated to that. The most over Diesel ever was the night after he lost the title to Bret Hart at Survivor Series. Came out and cut that tweener promo on Raw. Fans liked it. All of a sudden, Diesel's cool now. The NWO, same thing. They were the heels, but who are they going up against? The Dungeon of Doom and fucking Shark and Guardian Angel. And of course you're going to cheer the NWO. They're way cooler, than the Booty Man. I'm sorry. And so, you see this happen sometimes, and now we're seeing it again here with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. Cody, who is WWE's kind of golden boy, their big white meat babyface, who up until this point has been doing just fine in that role. But over the last year or so, some fans have started to grow a little bit tired of Cody Rhodes. This happens to everybody. Once you get a top star, start winning a lot, start winning multiple WrestleMania main events and stuff. Oh, they're being pushed too much. It's just the way the fans are. That type of shit is just embedded in the fans' DNA. They cannot think outside of that box. So the minute somebody starts getting over like that, fans start turning on them. It's been going on for decades, nothing new. What's different about this, I think, is we have a Vince-less WWE. Now, last time something like this similar happened, it was that movie star, that Fruity Pebble feller. Remember him? You never see him for some reason, but he was always winning, always on top, won more world championships in WWE than anybody else in history. And there were many, many years there where he was being force-fed as a babyface while simultaneously being booed by every single person in the audience. And WWE refusing to change course, refusing to adapt to that, refusing to lean into that, refusing to take advantage of that, and just insisting that we are going to present John Cena as this white meat babyface because he is moving a lot of merchandise. We're selling a fuck ton of them little green shirts and hats, and there is a lot of 7-year-olds who love him. So we are going to not change a fucking thing, and we're going to do this for 20 years. I don't think this WWE can make the mistake of doing that again. So if you are finding yourself in a situation like you are now, and you got to monitor, the crowd might have just enjoyed the segment last night. We'll see if this continues. Because between now and WrestleMania, if the crowd is behind Randy in every promo, in every segment, and Cody's being booed, and the boos are noticeable enough to where it's lopsided. People are cheering Randy and they're booing Cody. Obviously, there's going to be some mix. Still plenty of Cody fans out there. Cody might start moving into that John Cena reaction where you got 40% of the audience cheering him, 60% booing him, somewhere in there, but together it makes one very loud ovation. And if it becomes a noticeable difference like that, WWE can't be stubborn and just say, no, we're going to continue to present this good guy versus bad guy story while the fans are cheering in reverse. You got to be able to play off of what the fans do and be able to react to whatever they are going to do and say and cheer for and react. And you have to be able to do that. And I'm not saying WWE can't, but they haven't really instilled a lot of confidence in us, even off what we saw on those WWE Unreal shows. I'm like, they don't look like they have their shit together. This is supposed to showcase them as these, what creative geniuses they are, and how much goes into putting together these shows and stuff. They look inept in half of that shit. So I don't have a whole lot of confidence that if fans start tripping WWE up creatively, they're already second-guessing themselves enough as it is. Taking the title off Drew. When Drew won the belt, I'm like, well, he's going to go into Mania as champion and probably retain. And they've undone all that now because they got nervous that they weren't going to be able to put forth the best maybe match possible for that night one. And they pivoted, and they went to Cody and Randy now. And now Randy has turned on Cody. He's going to be the heel in this match. But I think a lot of fans like Randy Orton, because of how many years he's been around. And he might be a little bit cooler and edgier of a character to watch than a Cody Rhodes. Cody out there in his little suspenders, and Randy Orton's out there just jacked. What is he, 290 now? This fucking jacked goddamn monster. And just dismantling Cody Rhodes. Fans kind of like that, and it's different. It's good to see a bloody, violent segment on WWE TV. It's not something you get all the time. So my advice to WWE is if this continues and the crowd keeps reacting like this, do something about it. Take advantage of it. Don't come across as not being able to recognize when you have audiences that are reacting in a little bit of a different way and be able to adapt to whenever you've got a situation that you're not really expecting. Just having a little bit of coherence with your creative, with your narratives, and just try to make the fans or put forth storylines that won't make the fans do what they're doing. I think a lot of fans turned to this type of reaction and reacting opposite because, it's more fun and because maybe what they're getting creatively really isn't that satisfying to them. So they're going to make their own fun, cheer for whoever's cool. And it gives off the vibe that you're out of touch. So we'll just have to see. I think that Cody and Randy Orton, being the pros that they are, they're not going to let this be the shittiest match ever. They know they've got an opportunity here. They know, based on how the fans are reacting, that you can do a lot of potential surprises now. You can even have Randy Orton turn only just to do a double turn back at WrestleMania, maybe with Cody, finally turning heel. Because I'll tell you this, I will say this to you. If WWE wants Cody Rhodes to be John Cena 2.0, if that's really what they want, I don't think it is, but if it is what they want, you can accomplish that really easily. All you have to do is have Cody Rhodes go into that match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania and beat him completely clean. That's it. Match in the ring with very little else going on. They might do some outside the ring shit, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Cody Rhodes cross-Rhodesing Randy Orton 3 or 4 times and beating him clean. Beating him like beating him like Cena beat Triple H at WrestleMania 22. I thought Triple H was going to win that night, and Cena beat him, and the fans did not like it. And then Cena turned around and did it again at WrestleMania 23. And if you want the fans to truly turn on Cody, and you want them not turn Cody heel, but just have them turn on Cody in general, that's what you do. You have him beat Randy Orton clean at WrestleMania. I think right now it's up in the air. You would think that Randy Orton's going to use things to his advantage to win that 15th title at WrestleMania, but got to wait and see how the fans react to this, and if they're not going to change it up, then I would have Randy, just beat Cody at WrestleMania and just let the fans cheer that, I guess. But do something fun, whatever you do. So anyway, that was last night's SmackDown, and now we have our Cody and Randy program moving, because Cody, I'm sure, will come out and respond next week, and this could be fun. And like I said, I'm really curious to see how the fans are going to react to that. Also, like I said, we're going to be here this coming Monday night because we have a big Raw on tap. We've got Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns both set for Raw this week, and I am hoping that Brock Lesnar's open challenge will be answered. A lot of fans are hoping that it's going to be OVW. We've had reports this week that is WWE's internal plan. We don't know if any of this is confirmed or not. We're not going to know until Monday, but like I've said over and over since Brock initially came out during his open challenge, I thought it was bad enough that nobody came out that night. Brock Lesnar cannot be out in that ring on Monday night and nobody comes out. That will essentially bury your entire damn locker room. You should have guys trampling each other, trying to get out there and get that opportunity against Brock, because if you beat Brock at Mania, you would have to think that would shoot you right up to the top of contention. So a lot of people would want this opportunity, you would think, and nobody came out. And you've got a locker room that consists of OVW and Gunther. So if one of those two guys doesn't come out on Monday night, I'm going to be pissed. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think WWE realizes that too. Someone will finally answer that challenge. We've also heard about the LA Knight rumors, which I've already ranted on that at least twice, how I think that match would be absolutely stupid for WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar versus LA Knight. But if WWE and Triple H even have the most remote sense of humor or fun at all, when Brock is in that ring on Monday, I would have LA Knight come out. This is not going to do any favors for LA Knight, but it might be entertaining TV. Have LA Knight come out on the mic. Yeah, I'll take that opportunity. Gets on the, on the mic, starts walking to the ring, gets in the ring, and he's talking as he's getting in the ring, but Brock just cuts him right off. Like, as he's stepping in the ropes, he's right in the middle of one of his, and Brock just snatches him and just F5s him, fucks him up, and just throws him right out of the ring like a sack of garbage. And while LA Knight is coming out there, fans are going to think, oh shit, it's going to be the LA Knight match, and then Brock just obliterates him, and then Obafemi comes out. And he does his big march. But I think that would only be fun for me. that wouldn't do anything positive for LA Knight. They would be purposely pissing the fans off in the arena by having LA Knight come out and potentially getting LA Knight booed, because I don't think the fans want Brock Lesnar versus LA Knight. So if LA Knight were to come out and confront Brock, the fans are going to boo that because they want Obafemi, probably even more than Gunther. So I think they can't be that stupid. They have to understand this. This, what I'm saying right now, should just be something that's understood, common sense, that if you have LA Knight come out there, even though he's pretty over and fans want him to do shit, they are going to boo him coming out. They don't want him to face Brock Lesnar. They want him to win a championship. So no LA Knight. It's got to be Obafemi on Monday night for Brock. Also, Roman Reigns is going to be there. And we talked about it on this past Monday when Punk had that segment with the Usos. You now have them tied into this, a little bit of family animosity now because of what Punk said about Sika. And Roman Reigns is going to be on the show this week. And you know, if CM Punk, because Sika did not die that long ago. It's not like Sika's been dead for 20 years. He recently passed. So that's still kind of fresh with Roman, you would assume. And Roman was okay with Punk using that in their promo, which means if Roman's okay with that, Punk needs to be okay with Larry the Dog. So I think on Monday, Roman is going to bring up Larry. And, you know, Larry seemed really cool. Larry grew up in a wrestling house. If Larry was alive, I think he'd be cool with it. I don't think Larry would have any problem with this. I think Larry's a worker. Larry understands. So I think Punk will be cool with it too. I think I would be. If I was a wrestler, if somebody wanted to bring up Bub to get some heat, go ahead. You can take it. Go ahead. Bub's cool with it. Bub was awesome. You know, he's not a pussy. And Larry wasn't a pussy either. So I think that on Monday, Roman Reigns is going to bring up Larry the Dog. We will see. But the Usos are now going to be factored into this, and I think Punk and Roman are headed for some sort of a surprise ending there. And I think they might try to tell you the story like Roman is going to reform the bloodline and that we might get a bloodline reunion to help Roman beat Punk. What if it's the opposite? What if they're making you think it's going to be a bloodline reunion, but Punk bringing up, the apology that Roman still owes the Usos a couple of times, and Roman slightly acknowledged that. It's not like he completely is ignored that he was abusive, but for the most part he has. So maybe that comes back to bite him, and the Usos, after a lot of soul searching, realize that, hey, Punk is actually cooler to us than Roman. Let's help him retain. And you go into that match, you have the fans thinking that the outcome you're going to see is Roman Reigns beating Punk with some help from the Usos, and it turns out to be Punk retaining with some help from the Usos. I'd be into that. Are you going to have a title change in both nights? Is Orton going to beat Cody and Roman's going to beat Punk? Or is it going to be one or the other? Or both guys going to retain? You tell me in the chat. So that's what's on tap for Monday's Raw. Shout out to Jersey Mike's, by the way. All right, let's move into some wrestling news because we have some WrestleMania stuff to get into as well. Number one, there was a report this week by WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select about a point of frustration within WWE's promotion department here. And it goes on to say, here's what the report says, and I quote, one source told WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select that the direction for the event has never been clear and that those in charge have continued to change their graphic requests along the way. We've seen this in real time, as you see right here. The original plan was to promote WrestleMania as a high-end, classy vibe, as seen in the original WrestleMania's teasers. Since then, the direction has changed a number of times. And they were trying to get all fancy schmancy. Remember with the poker bullshit, which I hated. I mean, I love the WrestleMania 21 ones. Those were the best, the movie trailer ones. And there's been some other decent ones. This is one of my least favorite, the poker thing, and they're all there. They're already charging crazy money for these tickets, and I can understand how that might be the wrong message to send. Hey, this WrestleMania is only for rich, high-end, classy people, And so now they've kind of changed that. So at the beginning, they were all at the poker table there, and they're in their suits and tuxedos. The women were in their beautiful gowns and whatnot. And since then, you've changed to what you see here with this flaming buildings and just this Armageddon type of look behind it. So there's really no clear direction in the WrestleMania promotion for this year, and I find that hilarious. That's a part of WrestleMania that they can't quite get a hold of. I just think that's funny that they can't decide how they want this, the vibe and the theme of the promotional posters and whatnot, how they want it to look, and they keep changing it. And it's weird. Everything about this WrestleMania is very weird. Doesn't really feel like WrestleMania, although I feel like we say that every year about WrestleMania. It doesn't feel like Mania season, but this one has been especially weird, and they've had some issues, and of course they got ticket price issues that they've drastically dropped down here. They're a little bit disappointed in how many tickets moved, but overall their gate is still going to shatter every record imaginable, so really at the end of the day, nothing to worry about there. But WWE did have some worries to the point that they were even cock-blocking the watch parties. Now, one good news and good report we got this week is that it appears that the local blackout of WrestleMania watch parties in the Vegas area within a 50-mile radius has been lifted. This is according to Fightful Select. On Friday, Circa Las Vegas Stadium Swim revealed that the ban had been lifted, giving way to the watch parties for locations that license PLEs through Joe Hand Promotions. As recently as a week before, some venues had spoken to WWE and believed WWE would stand firm. We're told that over the last number of weeks, there were several casinos, hotels, and general tourist areas that had expressed frustration over the ban, as had a number of officials in the city. One source said that when Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority Board of Directors committed to a site fee for WrestleMania, it was to generate economic impact for the entire city, not just WWE and Allegiant Stadium. So when we heard about these blackouts, one of the first things I said was, let's hope this gets lifted, because WWE is definitely going to hear this. It's such a shitty thing to do because they're not moving enough tickets, and now they got to black out these people just trying to have fun, trying to watch WrestleMania, and going to these establishments that have special guests and whatnot. It's all part of the celebration of pro wrestling and the pro wrestling weekend of WrestleMania. And because WWE doesn't sell enough tickets, they could still sell out the show if it was just fucking reasonably priced. They could have a hell of a lot more people than 40 or 50,000 in there if they wanted to. We've seen it before, but based on the prices that they have and their allotted tickets, they were moving a little bit slower. So they thought that the answer was to black out the watch parties, which is just insane. I mean, I'm just a regular old dude who went to regular ass school, and you guys, many of you might be the same in there. And wouldn't you agree that there is not one single person, like put yourself in one of these fans' shoes. One of y'all might be in one of in their shoes. Imagine that you had made plans to go to a watch party at a casino or some sort of establishment in the Vegas area. There's been a guest that's been announced. You can get a picture and an autograph, and you're stoked about it. You're going with two friends, and you can't wait to go to this bar, watch WrestleMania on the big screen, meet fucking Bob Holly, and drink pitchers of beer. You're looking forward to it. Well, now WWE has blocked your watch party. You can no longer do that. Is your solution to that going to be buy an $800 ticket to WrestleMania? No, you're just going to watch it at home. Nobody from a watch party is going to choose going to the event instead if it gets blacked out. They're just going to not go to that watch party and watch WrestleMania some other way. And there's no way that even if there was somebody that was going to do that it would be a substantial amount of people to rectify or fix some of these low ticket sales that WWE was experiencing. There's no way anybody would do that. So it was just silly. And I thought, I mentioned it on 3 or 4 podcasts ago, whenever that was. I said, let's just hope that eventually WWE realizes how damn dumb this is, and they just back off of it or lift it or whatever, and it sounds like they did. So the WrestleMania watch parties are back on. That is good news. Also, we had a story this week from, I believe, Post Wrestling about the letter grades that we were originally getting. These were letter grades from Andreas Hale's reviews of the show, and we had seen that, C+ grade or whatever bad grade he gave WrestlePalooza, and how WWE didn't like that. And I think the Observer had reported a month or two that the letter grades were being dropped. Well, Post Wrestling pretty much confirmed that, and it appears that WWE may have strong-armed ESPN into dropping Andreas Hale's letter grades because they had a lot of WWE objections to that. But an ESPN source did claim that it was an ESPN decision alone and WWE had nothing to do with it. I find that hard to believe, but at the end of the day, I really don't care. It's not like that's surprising. This is your content partner. You know, this is who you supply them with your pay-per-views. They distribute your pay-per-views. You want to have a good relationship with them. It seems counterproductive to give bad grades to your own shit. So I understand that completely. But again, there's a simpler solution to this. Just put on good fucking shows. You know, because ESPN's not going to have some little two-bit sniveling biased little fucker, you know, who hates WWE writing WWE reviews for them. They're going to have, an unbiased observer, you would think. So the letter grades should be pretty honest. So all WWE has to do, if they don't like hearing honesty, is just put together a good show. Have a little bit of, interest in your booking, in your creative, and your stories. If you have a shitty show, that's on you. It's nobody else's fault. So the fact that you already had Triple H. Well, first WWE removed basically the fans from the pressers. No more questions because God forbid you have to answer something difficult. And now most recently at the last pay-per-view, I think it was Elimination Chamber, Triple H just opted not to appear on the post-show panel at all because after they dropped the press conference and the scrum crap, then Triple H started appearing on the post-show to talk about what happened. And what would happen in nearly all of these is the fans behind him would troll him or boo him or criticize him or whatever. So now he's not going to do that either. He needs a safe space. Safe space. Which I think is just, WWE, for as much as big as they are, they just don't have the confidence. They are so insecure. They're so insecure and they shouldn't be. They act like they're fucking geniuses, but deep down inside they are insecure. Triple H doesn't want to answer questions anymore. Then he doesn't even want to be out there because he wants to have to hear fans, yelling at him. And now, so if you see a story about letter grades being pulled, it would seem plausible that WWE could be behind that they could be requesting, let's not do that anymore. But I don't really care. I think WWE can be a little bit insecure. I think they can be big fucking snowflakes sometimes. But at the same time, I would kind of understand why you wouldn't want reporters working for your content partner to print bad reviews about your show. I get that. There should be some synergy there. So if these, if they've decided to kind of do away with that as to not, shit on the very content that they are supplying, or showing, then I guess I understand that. But at the same time, what's wrong with a little honesty? And instead of being scared of the letter grades or being annoyed by the letter grades, because if they got a great one, what would they have done? Let's say at WrestlePalooza, Andreas Hale gave them an A+++. They would have screenshotted that and smeared it on Raw. Andreas Hale from ESPN gave it an A++++. They wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. So why don't they just take that approach? Why not say, hey, there's people grading our shows. Let's go out there and try to get that A+. Instead of, being upset about it and wanting to go away. Let's go out there and say, hey, let's make that guy that gave us an A+ last time, let's make him give us an A++ this time, or try to outdo yourselves, or just try to use those type of things as a way to motivate you to provide better TV or better pay-per-views or PLEs or whatever. I would want to, like during the Monday Night Wars, there was a lot of that competitive spirit, in Nitro. When they were kicking Raw's ass, they were looking forward to every Monday because they wanted to see how bad they could kick their asses. Bischoff couldn't wait to get those ratings just to see how big he was winning. So, if you're getting good grades, you want to continue reading that stuff. So it's just, to me, I don't blame WWE for not wanting ESPN to publish bad reviews about their PLEs. I totally get that. But I also think that if you just didn't suck, you wouldn't get these bad grades. So interesting story, but kind of a non-story at the same time. Here's some sad news. Triple H, about an hour or two ago, posted that former international touring manager Davey Coates had passed away. This is a picture that Triple H included in the tweet. I will read you his tweet and what he said here. Just learned of the sad news of Davey Coates passing. Davey was WWE's international touring manager and was largely responsible for making all international shows, large and small, happen. He ensured our wrestling rings got to the most remote corners of the world. Our backstage ran smoothly and always took great care and personal pride in assisting our NXT UK talent at the UK Performance Center. Davey sent me this photo some years ago. Another memory from an international tour 30 years ago. The thoughts of our crew, our talent, and the entire WWE family are with his family today. See you down the road, Davey. Catch you at the next gig. And a lot of WWE personalities, including NXT ones, did post a lot of love for this fella. I've never even heard of him before, but apparently he was there for a long time and had a big job when it came to international touring. Because sometimes you wonder, how did they get that fucking ring to Kuwait? But they do. So, rest in peace to Davey Coates, who apparently recently passed away. That's a shame. TNA, for some reason, has signed Candice Michelle. There was a video released of what's-his-face, Carlos Silva and Tommy Dreamer, who I don't know if he's just got off an 8-hour lasagna bender there or what he's looking at there. But they're back there with a contract for Candice Michelle. And just a silly-ass segment. And Silva's like, here's your contract. That's everything we talked about. And Candice is like, yeah, I'm happy to be working here. Why? Who asked for this? Like, what, Candice Michelle? Like, she ain't Trish Stratus. I'm sorry. So what is Candice Michelle going to offer? Is she going to be a manager? I don't think she's going to be wrestling. Even when she was wrestling, she wasn't that great. Some fans, because, I'm old and most fans are young, they were a different age when Candice Michelle was around, so there could be things about her they liked, or they have fond memories of her, maybe, not me. And what is she going to bring in 2026 to TNA? Who asked for this? Nothing against Candice Michelle, nothing against TNA, even if it sounds like it. I don't get what she's going to do there or what she potentially brings and the name value she has in 2026. Is it worth why? So I guess it's just a name from the past to bring in, sure, but they made it such a big deal with the whole, so here's your contract and sign it and all of this. And I don't know. I don't really watch TNA, and I don't really know what Candice Michelle at this stage of her career is really going to offer a pro wrestling company of any kind. That's why we haven't seen her anywhere else. But TNA has elected to bring her in, so let's hope that it leads to something good. If she's going to head up a faction or a couple of girls or manage somebody or whatever kind of personality she's going to be, maybe it is a way to get her name back out there and bring up some nostalgia for fans. But I don't know. I think somebody told me she's MAGA, so fuck her. But they brought her in. I don't know why they brought her in, but Candice Michelle is now in TNA. Good for her. All the best, I guess. But, why? Why? Oh, here's some news. So, Nino Hamburguesa has been fired from AAA because he was in an indie show, competing in an indie show where he landed in the front row, basically on a fan's lap who I guess was maybe trolling him or talking some shit to him. And Hamburguesa popped him with 3, maybe even 4 elbows, and one of them was pretty stiff. So he just repeatedly elbowed this guy in the face. And, AAA now operates under WWE's kind of guidelines for its stars there. And word is, Hamburguesa was terminated via Zoom call. That had to be a fun call. But yeah, he can't be back elbowing dudes. He's been working in AAA since 2012. He's been there a long time. So, that's 14 years and you getting fired for something so dumb, when you could still be working there today had you not done that. So let's see if this type of thing blows over. We will see. But it doesn't sound like he's going to be able to work in AAA because of their association with WWE due to this incident. And I don't know where he goes from here, probably still competing and getting plenty of work independently. But, that might be bad for his career there. So that's a shame. All the best to Nino in his future endeavors. And before we get into the AEW stuff, we're going to do a quick run through of Dynamite, and we are going to predict Revolution. We got to talk about OVW referee Dallas Edwards. This situation that took place in OVW this week. I believe this took place yesterday or the day before. And it took place during an OVW match involving Brendan Bolling and Tony Evans. And everybody's seen the footage. I'm not going to play the footage for you, but it's all over social media if you want to see it. It's a pretty sick spot where Brendan Bolling goes off the top rope, goes for a top rope dive or a Superman punch looking thing, and Tony Evans moves out of the way, and Bolling nails referee Dallas Edwards, and he nails him hard. Dallas goes down, and he immediately starts seizing, like full-blown seizure. Cannot be mistaken for selling. Maybe he's selling. No. Any idiot with two fucking eyes can see he's not selling. He's got the arm stuff, and they're going crazy, and he is having a clear medical emergency in the ring, in the middle of the ring. And these two idiots, well, I guess Brendan, who I should say, when he hit him, he did immediately check on him. But then him and Tony went right into the next thing while he's having this seizure on the mat. And then in one of the most disturbing parts of this is Tony Evans, who now is trying to continue the match with Brendan. He's kind of kicking. He's kicking the referee out of the way. Like he moves him and then he kind of like back kicks him to kind of get him out of the way while he's just in full, deer stuck in the electric fence mode, like just so fucking disturbing. And he's kicking him off to the side. Precious seconds are ticking away here on this guy. And they're so oblivious to this. And you're just watching it and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's not like he got his bell rung, he'll be okay in a second, or maybe he just took a bad fall, let's just let him get his bearings straight. I mean, you could tell instantly that a medical emergency was happening. He was having a seizure, a full-blown, full-ass seizure. And these guys are kicking him out of the way to get their shit in. This is 2026, not a 1960s rural Texas circus. Like, how does this happen in this day and age? And you go back to like 1987, 1988, you had the Chuck Austin incident with the Rockers, where he took rocker dropper or whatever, Jannetty, leg dropped his head right into the mat. And he was paralyzed, and they still did their top rope finish onto him. There was just a couple of years ago, it was Perro Aguayo Jr., a few years ago now. Rey Mysterio was involved in that match. He died in the ring, and they were still doing shit in the ring while he was just laying there dead on the ropes. Paul Orndorff, his career ended in WCW, a fall brawl one year, and he took a nasty back head bump onto the mat, and he sat there paralyzed. Rey Mysterio, surprisingly, is involved in this one again, and people are just doing the match around him. And there's other incidents I'm sure that I'm missing, but when we're in 2026 and you've had so much pro wrestling, so many indie shows and, so many smaller shows, bigger shows and accidents and things like that happen, I just don't understand how you don't have broader protocols in place to where you can be somebody there, if the wrestlers are maybe too focused on the match to notice this seizure. I don't know how they could not notice it, but somebody at the ringside area, you got to put a second in command other than the referee to be able to jump in there and make some sort of a call like this because, it's even a tiny ass show. Who gives a shit if you have to stop a match? It's not like this is WrestleMania or anything. And even if it was, you got a seizing person in the ring. You got to take care of him. That's the top priority above anything else. So it was all really kind of disturbing to watch. But, luckily it seems like all is going to be okay here. Dallas appears to be all right. We've got statements from everybody. Of course, fans are all up in arms. Very upset at OVW, very upset at Al Snow, very upset at the wrestlers that were involved in this match, and a lot of people made statements here, but I think the most important statement to read is the statement from Dallas himself. And this is a picture of him in the hospital there with a thumbs up, and he says, "Hey guys, I know everyone seems to know about the scary incident last night at OVW. I have been evaluated, and I have a concussion as well as a subdural hematoma, which is a brain bleed. With that being said, I have made the decision to take some needed time away to get my life and health back in good spirits. I appreciate all of the support everyone has been offering, but as far as money goes, I am grateful to be in a position that I can manage an accident like this. In lieu of donations, I instead implore all of my fellow workers to get some sort of training in assisting another's life." That right there is a great man. No GoFundMe, nothing like that. No woe is me, send me money. No, I got this. I'm going to be fine. I just ask that people be a little fucking smarter next time. That's much respect. Mad respect, as the kids say here to Dally. Being in the position before, it's very important to be educated in all scenarios relating to injury, illness, or condition in the ring, especially when we're performing. I am not mad at anyone or anything other than the situation as a whole, and that I've been sitting around for about 24 hours straight in a hospital. As far as updates go, I am getting a CT scan in the morning, and if that goes well, I'll be home. Thank you to everyone who has reached out or stopped by. It means a lot. Thank you, love, Dally. So that is the statement from him. Definitely scary. Brain bleed, concussion, all of that is no joke, but looks like he's going to be all right. No paralysis, no motor skill problems or speech issues. He didn't no brain damage, basically. That's very, very relieving that it looks like all in all he's going to be okay, but still acknowledges the fucked up situation that took place in the ring. And then, Al Snow, who of course purchased OVW years ago, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago now, however long that was. He's since sold majority stake to some local investors, but he still is basically the owner. He is the face that runs the place. And Al Snow, if you look at his social media, his entire timeline is recycled jokes that he lifts and passes off on his own and retells them. Sometimes he'll tell the same joke 3 times within 3 months. They're just on a loop. So I don't know if he's on like a dad joke website and he just copies and pastes these into his Twitter profile to be funny. But he was dropping jokes yesterday instead of, maybe acknowledging and releasing some sort of a statement about what went on in his fucking promotion. And so finally today, a few hours ago, he did. And I will read you Al's statement, a little bit of it here. Skip the first little introductory paragraph here and pick it up about midway. Here's what Al Snow had to say. On March 12th, during a live OVW television event, Dallas was involved in a planned moment of physical contact with a wrestler that resulted in an injury. Traditionally, when an in-ring injury occurs, the referee is the central point of communication, assessment, and decision-making. In this unprecedented situation, like the ref's taking a bump is unprecedented, huh? The person who would normally make that assessment was the one who needed assistance. That unforeseen breakdown in communication contributed to the delay in stopping the match and concluding the show. Fuck you. That guy, how can you say that? It's not like he fell and was moving a little bit, struggling to get to his feet. Maybe the wrestlers are, okay, he's just selling or whatever. That you can kind of understand because it was a planned ref bump. He was supposed to take the bump. So if the referee is laying there, not moving, or if he's moving slowly, you're probably not going to think that much of it, and you could have a communication breakdown because you don't know that he's hurt, because he's doing what you expected him to do after taking that shot. But he's doing this, and he's shaking, and his body is doing things that you do not do when you sell in professional wrestling. A referee, a little tiny-ass referee with 700 social media followers is not going to have, the most convincing fucking sell of all time. This shit is real. It's not like he was face down. It's not like he was not moving. It's not like he was rolling around or anything like that. He was having a goddamn seizure. These morons in the ring need a referee. They need another person to tell them that this guy is having a medical emergency? Don't these work? We all have them, most of us anyway, who have the luxury and the blessing and being fortunate enough to be able to see, and we have working eyes. You can see what's happening. And it's not like they were so caught up in this 5-star match or anything. They were kind of moving around kind of slow. They were looking right at him. And it's like, how do you not know what the next step is? What do we do? What do we do? What do you mean, what do you do? You stop what the fuck you're doing. You throw up your own goddamn X if you have to. Hey, dude, or point. Well, yeah, hit that. Look. Seizure. But they're doing moves on each other, and then the one guy's fucking kicking him out of the way. Motherfucker. Like, it has to be seen to be believed. So, Al Snow is right in the sense that, yeah, if a referee gets hurt for real, he's the main, source of communication, so there might be a little bit of confusion for a little while, but there shouldn't have been any in this specific situation. Now, like I said, if a referee goes down in some other way, and that's all part of it, you might not know that something's wrong. Pero Aguayo was kind of like that. When he landed on those ropes and then Ray went for the 619 and he didn't sell it, they were like, oh, well, maybe he's just selling the original dropkick. But no, he was really hurt. It took them a second to realize it. But this shouldn't have taken anybody any seconds. The minute that he took that bump, his body went into that mode. And that is something that should be recognizable to even the dumbest human. The dumbest motherfucker walking around here, 2 teeth and a MAGA hat, would be able to see that guy seizing on the floor. But hey, man, hey, look. Even he would know that. So, like, there's very little excuse for this. Now, I'm not a fly off the rails type of guy. There's been enough of that shit on social media. People calling for Al Snow's head. These 2 wrestlers should be fucking crucified. OVW should shut down. Dallas Edwards should sue them for everything they've got. I am not a drama queen, okay? Luckily, they basically are going to dodge a major bullet here. Dallas doesn't even seem to be like the type of guy that's going to file a lawsuit. He's not asking for donation. He's just asking for education, on things like this. He doesn't seem like the vindictive type of guy that would maybe go after OVW or sue them or whatnot. Now, if he died, his family might have. Then they might have been fucked. But this looks like a situation that OVW in the long run is going to survive after, some of this heat or whatnot cools off. But they are lucky because, they're going to deserve a lot of the criticism that they're going to get. All the YouTubers, and especially the wrestling YouTubers now, your Stevie Richardses, and probably even your Mavens, who I have a lot more respect for than Stevie. But, those type of accounts are going to start analyzing this and doing it for clicks, just like the Psycho Stu and Rampage Jackson thing or whatever. So, at the end of the day here, this was just a very, very, very unprofessional situation that went down. And OVW should be embarrassed. The wrestlers should be embarrassed. Al Snow should be embarrassed. And you're lucky that this guy didn't fucking die because of the ignorance and stupidity of your own people, especially the 2 wrestlers in the ring who, for some reason, can't grasp the fact that a dude might be having a fucking seizure in there. Considering that he's, like I said, acting like a deer in an electric fence, and nobody else at ringside. You got a timekeeper and a ring announcer out there. At some point, somebody's got to run the fuck in there, and finally they got to him, but it just took way too long. And that's the type of thing. Every situation here is going to be different. If something else happens like this, maybe you can understand more of another side of it. But what really annoys me about this is it really should come down to, or what it does come down to, is just common sense. There is a massive lack of common sense in this whole situation. And that, I think, is what kind of would make me a little nervous if I was an independent wrestler or a referee. Man, I got to be careful. If I get hurt out there, seriously, nobody might know. I could break my neck and fall on the outside of the ring, and they might just think I'm selling. Precious seconds are ticking away, and because of that, I die. So that is, these type of things need to be better handled in the future. And Al Snow, went on to, apologize. And, of course, the safety of our performers is always our top priority, blah, 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 blah. ChatGPT fucking T wrote this for him. But it was, it's exactly what you expect Al Snow or anybody in his position to say in terms of a statement. You know, I'm sure he's not happy about what happened there, but trying to act like this unprecedented situation, you know, resulted in an unforeseen breakdown in communication. Shut up. This is common sense, Al. This is any fucking human imaginable in the ring seeing that happen should be like, yo, homie needs help. So I accept no excuse. There's nothing you can tell me that will make anything that happened in the ring the other night okay. It was all kinds of wrong, and I'm just glad that the referee's going to be all right. Sounds like he's going to be okay in the long run. Probably shook him up a bit. Probably going to have some trauma from this. You know, it's not going to be a fond memory for him, and he's going to be spending some time in a hospital, and when you got a bleed on your brain, that is something you don't want. So all the best to him, and I'm glad that he seems to be handling it with class and dignity and, you know, no bitterness whatsoever. Never even heard of Dallas Edwards before, but he seems like a stand-up dude. So all the best to Dallas in his recovery. And that, you know, that is kind of the end of the news. It was pretty light on the news. We only really had the WrestleMania stuff to talk about. This situation, I wanted to bring up Candice Michelle and Nino Hamburguesa. And then Triple H just hit us with that Davey Coates news a while back. So other than that, it was kind of light on the news. So if there's anything else you want me to mention, bring it up in the chat. We'll move on to AEW now. And talk a little bit about this week's Dynamite. Now, Wednesday's Dynamite was an okay show. I don't want to talk too much about it because the pay-per-view is tomorrow and everything they did on Wednesday was just your final setup for that. But they a couple of interesting things did happen on the show. They were up in San Jose, so there was no Excalibur on the show. Excalibur was apparently sick, and Danielson filled in. So Danielson is going to kind of work a lot when they're on the West Coast. He's revealed recently he doesn't like to travel because of how it affects his body. So he kind of sat in on commentary this week, which was fun, along with Tony Schiavone and Ian Riccaboni, who was doing some raps when Willow Nightingale came out. That was kind of fun. Also, Uncle Dave was spotted there in the front row, which you could imagine the boys with the smelly mattresses. Oh my God, were they upset about that. He's so biased. Dave goes to WWE shows too. It's not a big fucking deal, but man, that guy he looked like a psycho. He was, there was like a still shot of Okada, and Dave is like he's about to turn into the fucking Incredible Hulk or something, which I thought was funny. But of course, that does nothing to help his reputation with the angriest boys imaginable. Oh my God, he's so biased and blah blah blah. My God, the Meltzer derangement syndrome is one of the most comical things on social media. I just cannot believe. I mean, especially grown. Like, it's one thing to have like losers, you know, who peaked in fourth grade, did nothing in life, you know, obsessing for days and months and weeks and years on end about Dave Meltzer. That's one thing. But when you have like successful people like Eric Bischoff and stuff, it's just like, what the fuck is going on in these people's heads? You know, I could never imagine caring so much. If I ever do, go out in your tool shed, grab the sharpest thing you can find, shove it directly up my ass, because I really got nothing else to live for at that point. So the Meltzer attendance at Dynamite riled up the absolute worst people you know. Just the worst of the worst, smelliest of the smelly, angriest of the angry, and boys. It's all boys. It's not no women are doing this. It's boys. It's boys. Jesus Christ. Boys. So anyway, Meltzer was there pissing off the boys. That was funny. We had one final setup there for Moxley and Takeshita at the pay-per-view. Moxley and Claudio defeated Takeshita and Hechicero, and at the end of the match, the Callis family, I guess, wanted Takeshita to hit Moxley with the chair, but he wouldn't do it. So that's the final setup there. In what was an easily a TV Match of the Year candidate already here in 2026. Kyle Fletcher and Speedball Mike Bailey back at it again. They wrestled a while back on Dynamite and had an amazing match. Now Fletcher is once again the TNT champion. Title is on the line against Speedball, and they deliver and then some. It was so fun. It was the highlight of Dynamite to me. You know, to me, last night's SmackDown was just that contract signing. And to me, Dynamite was really just that Fletcher and Speedball match. That was so unbelievably good. I liked the Brody King and Swerve stuff. Brody wiped the floor with a jobber in about 10 seconds. And then Swerve showed up on the outside of the ring in a hoodie and choked Brody, and then hopped over the barricade to reveal that it was Strickland. He's got Brody in the ring now. He's got the chain around his neck, and Brody just breaks the chain right off. So that was kind of cool. It reminds me back in like 1987 or 1988. I think it was 87 when the Warrior came in. The Dingo Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior, just come in, and the first guy they kind of put him with in a feud was Hercules. And there was a segment on TV like Superstars or Wrestling Challenge where Hercules had the chain, and they're kind of playing a tug of war with it, and Warrior just snaps it. And it freaked Hercules out. So Brody freaked Swerve out, breaking the chain. That was pretty funny. We had Gabe Kidd and David Finlay. They defeated Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin after the match. The Dogs are out there putting a beating on OC and Darby, and they invite Roderick Strong to come out, who already kind of abandoned Cassidy once before. And they set up Cassidy for him to nail, but then Strong turns, winds up attacking the Dogs, and kind of, I guess, reunites with Orange Cassidy. And we'll talk about that trios match coming up at the pay-per-view in just a minute. Also, Willow, she retained her TBS title on Wednesday. She defeated Persephone, and she is doing double duty tomorrow. And so is Lena Cross. So that should be big for the women. Also, Ciampa, the recently turned heel Ciampa. So Ciampa comes into the company, wins the TNT title, loses the TNT title, and he's now turned heel. I don't know how many weeks he's been there, 4, 5, 6. Hasn't been that long, and he's already done all that. So now he's a heel. Last week, I think on Collision, he basically did the same spot that he did when he turned on Gargano by ramming him into the stage. He did that with Briscoe. So now it's Dem Bucks. It's Briscoe and the Young Bucks taking on FTR and Tommaso Ciampa. FTR and Ciampa get the win, and there is a post-match beatdown of Briscoe after the match. And now Ciampa, he's going to be that Psycho Killer. So cool. I feel like if you're going to be called the Psycho Killer, a heel persona might be better for a nickname like that. So that was kind of cool. And then we had basically kind of the main event segment. They attempted to do this press conference, which was just weird. And it wasn't even in the ring or nothing. It was like backstage, and they invited some of our contemporaries to ask questions in that. Self-made dude was there. Denise was there. A few others were there. So they're asking questions, and it just didn't feel right. I didn't like it. I mean, they already do the scrums after pay-per-views. I don't know what the point of this was between Hangman and MJF. I guess just to showcase more of their mic skills, but you knew this was going to devolve into a brawl anyway, and that's pretty much what happened. And the fact that it didn't take place in the arena, I thought was weird, but the brawl took place in the arena. So the brawl wound up spilling, all through the arena after they started fighting there. But, I think it was an idea that maybe I wouldn't try again if I was Tony Khan. I wouldn't do this again. Like maybe if they did something here in this, or they had it set up in a way that did feel unique, or like, oh, this could be a cool, different type of segment to do before big championship matches on pay-per-view. Maybe they could find a little niche here, something that worked that only they did. You know how WWE has a contract signing? Sometimes AEW has contract signings too. But if this would have really worked, then maybe this would be something I would do for every pay-per-view. I would fly Danielson in. I know he doesn't like to travel, but hey, can you come in 1 month of the year right before the pay-per-view and you moderate the press conference between champion and challenger, and you do that for every pay-per-view? I'd actually be all for that if they figured out a way to make this kind of fun or something that the fans might be interested to see again. Nothing they really did on Wednesday with this is something that I personally want to see again. Maybe y'all liked it or were cool with it or whatever. I just don't think it came off weird to me, and it wasn't my favorite. So I didn't really enjoy the press conference between the two. You could have done a bunch of other things instead that would have been just fine. And of course, we've got the big stipulation at the pay-per-view as well, where Hangman apparently is not going to be able to challenge for the title again if he loses. And I have a feeling that he is going to lose, and I have a feeling I know how he's going to lose. So I think it is about time that we talk about Revolution. Wait, almost. I should mention to you Collision, which goes live in 1 hour. It was taped on Wednesday. Spoilers are already out, but so I won't spoil you, but I will tell you the matches you're going to see. Kevin Knight versus El Clone, Triangle of Madness versus Viva Van and a couple of locals. You got Mark Davis versus Commander. You've got The Demand versus Bang Bang Gang. You've got Lena Cross versus Mina Shirakawa and Andrade versus Mascara Dorada. So that's what you have on tap tonight for you Collision watchers if you're into that. And then, of course, tomorrow is AEW Revolution. And like I mentioned earlier, we are going to be here to watch Revolution tomorrow. Big watch along and review. And there are 10 matches on the main card alone, 3 on the 0 hour. So we've got a 13 match card here. This is going to be a 5-hour show, and we're going to be up here for at least an hour after that reviewing that sucker. So it's going to be a big one tomorrow. Make sure you join us. We go live about 15 minutes before the main card starts. Bring your snacks, energy shots, and BYOB tomorrow. Hope you guys can hang out with me. Looking forward to it. All right, well, let's start predicting Revolution. We'll hold off on that 1 second. Let me go over here to the chat. Make sure all's good over here. I want to answer this super chat from Ryan. Sent $5 earlier. Breaking, Mercedes has lost another belt. Also, the SummerSlam 2018 match you were talking about was Charlotte versus Becky versus Carmella. Oh, it was a 3-way? I forgot about Carmella. What's her name? Just Carmella. Carmella Hayes. I forgot about Carmella Hayes. I forgot about Carmella. I forgot about Corey Graves' wife. I forgot she existed until just now. Carmella. Yeah, she was good. So it was Charlotte, Becky, Carmella, and then that was the night that Becky turned. Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying that. I completely forgot. Okay, awesome. But Mercedes has dropped another belt. Don't know what belt that was. Lost respect for Cody. I have little feud with OTRS Central. I don't know if that was a feud. I think that was Cody responding to one tweet and then him not letting it go. Happens a lot. I don't even think there was a back and forth. I think Cody had one response, if I remember that right. You know, and I've seen people do that before. Wrestle responds to him, and then they have to send 30 tweets back to him. I'm like, that's not really a feud. That's kind of one-sided. But I kind of forgot about that. OTRS is a good dude, though. I don't know why anybody's feuding with him. Oh, right, David Brown, you suffer from seizures, not good fun. I remember being in school and seeing a couple kids with epilepsy or other conditions that had some seizures, and you knew immediately what was going on. You know, it was very scary, too. I remember one time getting really freaked out by, what was happening to a kid. I thought a kid was dying, but it's just something that happens. It's routine for them, but seeing it is really jarring. So, a seizure is unmistakable. That's why I just don't accept this. Oh, there's a breakdown of communication. No, they're just fucking idiots. If you can't tell that somebody's having a seizure there, I just do not accept that. Like a seizure is very noticeable and pretty easy to distinguish, and nobody is ever going to sell like that. Hogan would sometimes sell when he would, when he get taken out, he would quiver, but, not a full blown, like you can tell there's a medical emergency happening, which was clearly happening to poor Dallas Edwards. And those motherfuckers just ignored it. Unreal. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about AEW Revolution. Let me get down to my matches here. Let's start with the 0 hour. By the way, Revolution, Crypto.com arena, sold out is what they're saying. Now, it's not a sold-out arena. They've sold out how many tickets they have allotted for the show, which is about 12,000. So, pretty solid house here for Revolution. And all of AEW pay-per-views do really well. I put up on Twitter last night that they kind of remind me a little bit of new generation WWF. Remember back in like 93, 94, 95, WWE Raw and Superstars were running in small buildings, sometimes crazy fucking small, like Fernwood Resort in Bushkill, Pennsylvania. Some of these gymnasiums, you can see ceiling fans on the fucking ceiling, and the ring looked huge in this tiny-ass building for Raw and SmackDown. I think of Bret Hart and Owen Hart. They built their whole issue inside of barns, inside of high school gymnasiums, it looked like. But the pay-per-views drew. Bret and Owen had a packed house at MSG for WrestleMania 10, a packed house at the United Center for SummerSlam 94. But the TVs were run in like really small buildings, but the pay-per-views drew. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that. But they're going to have a big old house tomorrow, very close to 12,000, if not more. Tickets have already been sold, according to Wrestle Tickets yesterday, so I don't know what the latest number is, but they're going to have a good one there, and this card looks pretty damn stacked. So on the 0 hour, we're going to be getting Big Boom AJ on the card again. So it's going to be Boom and Doom. It's going to be Big Boom and fucking QT Marshall, I guess. And they're taking on the Infantry. So I'm going to predict Boom and Doom to win that. We've got Willow Nightingale on the 0 hour is going to defend her TBS championship against Lena Cross. And then later she's going to defend her tag team titles, also against Lena Cross and Megan Bayne, respectively. So Willow and Cross here on the 0 hour for the TBS. Willow Nightingale. I do not want to see her drop that TBS title on the pre-show, but she might be one belt short by the time that pay-per-view is over tomorrow. And also on the 0 hour, you've got Ricochet defending his national championship inside of a blackjack battle royal. So there's going to be 21 participants here, and the only other person I believe announced for this is, was it Ciampa or was it Jack Perry? Now, they've been building to turn on my own thing there. They've been building to a Jack Perry versus Ricochet match for that championship. So I don't know if you would want to take the title off of Ricochet here unless Jack Perry is in this. It's Ciampa. Ciampa's the only other person announced for this battle royal that I can see so far. So you don't know who's going to be in it. You don't know if there's going to be a surprise or somebody's going to make a return or something like that. You don't know that either. So I guess I got to go Ricochet retaining. I'm going to go Ricochet retaining. Why not? Let's have him survive here, and we can get that match booked with Jack Perry. I'll tell you this. If Ricochet's not going to win, then it's got to be Jack Perry. Jack Perry would have to be in this and then win it. And then that still results in your match between the two. So I guess, how about this? Well, no, I guess, I don't know. Shit. I could pick Jack Perry to win, but I don't even know if he's in the match or not. So I don't know. So let's stick with Ricochet. I'm going to Ricochet here. So 0 hour, Boom and Doom over Infantry, Willow over Cross, and Ricochet to retain in the Battle Royal. All right, main card time here. We've got this Trios Tornado Tag. It's going to be Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong taking on the Dogs. David Finlay, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd. The Dogs won on Wednesday, but Roddy then came back to save the day. But I don't know if you can really trust what's going on there with Roddy. And I don't know if you want to beat the Dogs since they're all just kind of coming together now in AEW. But they did just win on Wednesday. So and Darby, getting pinned in that loss makes me want to pick the baby faces here. But I think the Roddy thing, I don't know. I feel like I got to pick the Dogs, man. But that match on Wednesday and the fact that Darby is on the other side there and Darby has survived some unbelievable battles, I think I'm going to be wrong about this, but I'm switching my pick to the baby faces. I'm going to go Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong to defeat the Dogs, just based on booking math, I suppose. I think I'm going with that. I could be wrong on that. Here's a match I'm probably not going to be wrong on. Toni Storm versus Marina Shafir. I'm loving the fact that AEW is trying to make Marina a big deal. I like Marina a lot. However, I just don't see her beating Toni Storm. I'm a little bit disappointed that Toni has actually taken a step down a bit. I'm happy to let Statlander and Tekla breathe. That's all great. But Toni, I think is the best character and women's wrestler in the world, really. Or you could at least have made that argument for her a year ago. A year ago at Revolution, of course, was the, what was it called? The Glamorous Ending or whatever. It was the big match with her and Mariah May, which ended just one of the most beautiful programs in AEW's history, and it feels like ever since then, Toni hasn't done much, even though she was the one who sentenced Mariah May to a lifetime of mediocrity in the form of Blake Monroe in NXT. But here, Toni has got to win this one. I'm going Toni Storm over Marina Shafir. In a match that maybe between the ropes could be the best one of the night. I think it could be. In terms of a wrestling match, probably the match I'm looking forward to the most would be Andrade versus Bandito. Got to go Andrade here. I feel like we're going to get a banger, like a banger and then some. Bangers and mash. This is going to be, well, maybe a banger burrito. I don't know. Bangers and mash. That's way too bland for these guys. They eat good food. So I think maybe a banger burrito between these guys, Andrade and Bandito. This one's going to be spicy. It's going to be so good. And, you know, I think about, what match was it in NXT? Was it Andrade and Gargano? There was just one great takeover match specifically that stands out for Andrade. I think it might be Gargano. That type of shit, you know, apron DDTs, near falls out the ass. These guys, basically murdering each other's bodies and providing us with a 5-star banger. Andrade over Bandito. Swerve Strickland. He's going to be taking on, of course, Brody King. They set this up on... when I was talking about the Dynamite highlight, did I call him Brody Lee? My brain says I did. If I did, my apologies. Brody King. Swerve versus Brody King. What they did on Wednesday was pretty good. I've liked the setup between these two. Gives both of them a significant match to have on the pay-per-view. But there's no way Swerve loses this. I think Swerve is now that he's a heel, he's not going to immediately just start dropping matches. And I think he's about to be a big part of that world title scene here as well. And I don't think his victory over Brody tomorrow will be the only time we're going to see Swerve on the show, if you catch my drift. We have the women's tag team titles on the line. Babes of Wrath taking on Lena Cross and Megan Bayne. Now on the 0 hour, we've already have Willow Nightingale defending her TBS title against Lena Cross. So Lena and Willow are working double duty. I've got Willow retaining that TBS title on the 0 hour. I would actually do a title change here. I'm going to pick Lena Cross and Megan Bayne to win the women's tag team titles. I think Willow will retain her TBS but drop the tag. And Lena and Bayne can run with those. They're a badass team, and I think it would be cool, because I always liked this when it happened in WCW. I liked it when champions were kind of each other's counterparts. You know, like if Road Warriors were the NWA champions, Demolition is the WWF tag team champions, you know, shit like that. And I think it'd be really cool if Megan Bayne and Lena Cross were AEW Women's Tag Team Champions, while Nia Jax and Lash Legend are WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. That would be a fun dream match. Women beating the hell out of each other. I'm going Lena and Bayne to win. I hope they do. I hope they pick up the tag team titles. I'm going to be rooting for those heels to beat the Babes of Wrath. And I love the Babes of Wrath. They're babes and they wrath. So I like them. But I don't want them to retain the titles here. Willow's already the TBS champion. She'll retain in the 0 hour. Drop your tags here to these 2 tall drinks of water. We've got... I didn't even put that one up there. My bad. Anyway, there's the match. Megan Bayne, Lena Cross, I've got as your new women's tag team champions. All right, we have got the trios titles on the line. Trios tags are on the line here. We've got the Callis family, Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis. They're going to be taking on Mystico and Jet Speed for the titles. Now, the Callis family just won these titles, so they are not going to drop them right away, especially to Mystico and Jet Speed. I'm sure this match will be fun, but no way the Callis family loses this match. I mean, if anything during this match, we'll see maybe some Callis family story beats or something, but in terms of the titles being on the line, Callis family to retain is who I've got. And the much anticipated no time limit match for the Continental title between Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita. I was looking at Kyle Fletcher on the screen here. So it's Moxley and Takeshita, no time limit for the title. Part of me wants to say that Mox is going to win this here, but at the same time, Takeshita and Okada, they've been kind of telling that story. It kind of got put on pause after the Continental Classic there. Really want to see that be brought back up, and for these two to eventually at some point have some sort of a big match. And a lot of people have pointed out that if Takeshita were to win this title here, they could do a unification with Okada at All In, which I really, really like that idea. The only problem is that's August. So you got a lot of time to burn there, but the first step, if you do want to get to that match, is having Takeshita beat Moxley for that title. So that's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to predict Konosuke Takeshita to defeat Jon Moxley and become the new Continental Champion, and then go on to unify that again with Okada's unified title. But I'm really lost on these championships because I thought two of them were already unified, and then now one's back, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. My brain can't process it. I don't know why. It confuses me. And it's slightly annoying. But I've got Takeshita winning the title here, and hopefully they can start setting him on a big collision course with Okada. All In would be the perfect place for that, I think, but that's still a ways off. We have the AEW Tag Team titles on the line as well. We've got FTR defending against the Young Bucks. Now, we've all been waiting for what we thought was going to happen a year ago with Cope and Christian reuniting to not only feud with FTR, but eventually take the tag team titles from them. We don't know where Christian and Edge have been, or Christian and Copeland have been. It's getting to the point where fans don't really care at this point if they were to bring them back. And one thing that I think we could see here is maybe they show up in this match. So two things could happen. You could have FTR retain, and then Cope and Christian show up to confront them, and that sets up your championship match for your next pay-per-view or whatever. Or you have Cope and Christian show up and help the Bucks win. I think that would be fun as well. But I think Cope and Christian need to show back up on TV soon, or just forget the whole damn thing. And since we don't know what the plan there is, I don't know who to pick here. I mean, I actually think the Bucks could have a legitimate shot to win these titles back from FTR. And I do think it would be really fun if we did have an appearance from Cope and Christian in this match to help the Bucks out. Maybe Ciampa comes down and tries to help out FTR. Or maybe they have, too much help from Stokely, or something else happens and that prompts, Christian or Cope or something like that to show up and perhaps help the Bucks. And then Cope and Christian maybe celebrate with the Bucks, and then maybe you even get, Cope and Christian are obviously going to be targeting FTR, but maybe you get a nice little babyface tag team match, maybe a dream match for the Young Bucks against Edge and Christian. That's something that we've never gotten. So I really feel like this could go either way. FTR could retain. And then if we are going to get Cope and Christian back, I would debut them, or not debut them, but I would bring them back right here and set that up right after the match. And I would even bring them back to help the Bucks win. I think either one of those would be acceptable. But if you're going to keep Cope and Christian on the shelf for another few months and you're trying to wait until All In, I feel like the fans are already not caring. By the time you get to that, they're really not going to care. So if that's what Tony Khan is waiting for, if he's stalling to get to August for that, I don't know if that's the best idea. So I guess I'm going to go. Let me look. How many title changes do I have here? Oh, man, I'm really tempted to pick the Bucks, man. I am really tempted to pick the Bucks. What do I do? I have FTR written down, but the more and more I think about it, and I'm like, you could have the Bucks win, but I feel like the belts are on FTR for the sole purpose of Cope and Christian taking them off of them. So unless that plan has changed, or unless you plan on hot tatering the title here, like put it on the Bucks and then put them back on FTR, and then Cope and Christian comes back, and then you set it up for All In. So that might be Tony Khan's plan. Maybe he's got Cope and Christian versus FTR on his mind for All In. But that's a long way away. So in the meantime, have the FTR feud with the Bucks again, trade the titles a couple of more times, and then just make sure the belts are back on FTR by the time you bring Cope and Christian back. That could be very well what we're seeing here. We don't know. I think I'm going to go FTR to retain. FTR, I'm going to have retain the tags over the Young Bucks. I'm not very confident about that. We have Tekla defending her AEW Women's Championship against Chris Statlander in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Again here, I don't know what the best result would be. Tekla recently won the title. You'd like to see her have a run. If she were to lose the title here, you would worry about her being Jamie Haytered. Because when Jamie won the title and then, lost it or got hurt, whatever it was, she's not even sniffed that thing since. And I worry that Tekla might not see that belt again if she drops it here. But it is a 2 out of 3 falls match. I think that favors Statlander, in terms of, something happening and Tekla picking up a cheap win. If this is just, woman versus woman, 2 out of 3 falls, this extra fall, I think will help Statlander overcome any odds that might come her way. I feel like Statlander might win the belt back here, but I'm not confident about that either. But I am going to predict Chris Statlander to beat Tekla and win back the AEW Women's Championship. In the third fall, obviously it'll go 1 fall apiece. Now, if Tekla wins the first fall, then I feel like that's going to be a guarantee for Stat. She'll come back and win the next 2. But if Stat wins the first one, I don't know. Then I could turn out to be wrong. I'm not confident about this one or the Bucks and FTR, to be honest with you. Some of the other ones I feel better about. I feel good about the women's tag team match. I feel good about Swerve and Andrade and Tony Storm. But these two are a little bit, and even the main event I'm pretty confident in, but I'm a little bit shaky on these. But I'm going to pick Statlander to regain the AEW Women's Championship. I don't think she had enough of a run with it her first time. I did see, it might have been John Alba, I forgot who it was. I did see a couple of rumblings on social media about Chris Statlander's contract. There might be a rumor that it's coming up soon. We don't know that. If it is, then I definitely think she's going to lose here. If Statlander's contract is up in a few weeks, she's not going to win back the title. But if she's got plenty of time left on her contract and that's a false report or something like that, then, I think she could win here. So I will say this, Statlander I've picked to win unless we learn something in the next couple of days that her contract is almost coming up. If I knew that now, I would not predict her to win. But you would have to think, though, if her contract is coming up, would she bounce or would she stick around? I kind of want to see her stick around in case Bayley shows up because they're friends, so I almost wonder, would it be best for Statlander to go to WWE or would it be best for her to stay put? Like if I trusted Tony Khan's booking, and I'm not sure if a lot of wrestlers there do, but if I did, if I'm Statlander, I would say I'm our company's Rhea Ripley. I need to be her counterpart, over here. I need to be AEW's Ripley and pushed that way. So maybe she feels that's a better spot for her than going to WWE, Land of the Giants. She might not stand out as well in that women's division as she does in this one. Plus, a lot of fans love Statlander. And I would love for her to really be the focal point or one of your pillars or backbones of your women's division. And if I was Tony Khan, I would try to lock her up to as many years as possible and give her that, creative, confidence. Give her that, give her your word, I guess. I'm going to take care of you creatively. We've got these plans for you. Vince used to do this. He'd lay it all out for people sometimes. What he's got planned or what he wants to do and shit like that. So, if Tony Khan, presented it to Statlander like this, let's sign you to a new contract and let's make you, a big part of this women's division to where you're not going to have to worry about being off TV for 9 weeks in catering and you're going to be used every week. You're the cornerstone type of thing, then I think she should stick around. But she should also do whatever she wants. And the contract story might be a non-story, might not even be true, but if it is, that could potentially affect the outcome of this match. But I'm going to go with Statlander regaining the title anyway because I like Statlander. And that leaves us with match number 10 on the main card. MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Hangman Page in a Texas death match. The stipulation here is if Hangman does not beat MJF, he can never challenge for the AEW World Championship again. So this is a stipulation that obviously if he were to lose, they are going to have to undo. Had Cody not left for WWE, they would have undid his as well. I think that was the intent. Even though it kind of fucked him over and booked him into a corner a little bit, I think the intent was for eventually Cody to be able to challenge for that title whenever the time is right. So even though the stipulation is in place, I don't think it means that Hangman will never get a title shot or even be world champion again. But it might have bigger purposes here as well. Also, this is a Texas death match, so there's going to be no rules in this. So if it's just straight up Texas death, I think Hangman would have MJF's number in this situation. But it's also Texas death. And I think about someone like Swerve Strickland, who has a ton of history with Hangman Page and who has recently turned heel. Even when they were kind of briefly on the same page there, it didn't last very long. Swerve Strickland, of course, who has title aspirations, seems to be his number one goal right now. If he were to come out there and help help MJF defeat Hangman Page, he would eliminate a title contender. You know? So looking at it from that point of view, Swerve's character, number one being a heel, also wanting, a title shot or a path to the championship. There's a lot of obstacles in his path. One of those obstacles would have been Hangman Page. But if he comes out essentially, not necessarily to fuck Hangman specifically, kind of like the Orton thing. Like Orton was like, nothing, sorry, Cody, I was going to do this to Drew, but then you went and win the title, and now I got to do it to you. So it might be the same thing with Strickland. Hey, if MJF is facing anybody, any top title contender with the stipulation in the contract that you can't get another title shot if you lose, I'm going to go out and help him beat whoever that is. Doesn't matter whether it's you or anybody. So Swerve might find himself in the same situation here. Hey, how can I not take advantage of this situation, help MJF win? Now I've cleared out one major contender, for the championship that I want to get back. One person that might stand in my way more than anybody else, he's now out of the way. And that is what I think will ultimately save MJF's championship here. I think we're going to get some interference from Swerve Strickland, and he's going to play a role in the outcome. And MJF is going to retain the AEW championship, and we will have to then see what kind of a path and road Hangman goes on to try to find his way back to the championship, and how many months, or maybe even if it's a year plus, until they revisit that, or if he finally has a match to where if he wins, the stipulation is lifted. It's going to have to be something like that, especially if he gets screwed. And that's why I think it'll be easier to undo that. If he gets royally fucked over by Swerve, they can use that as a way to maybe give him an opportunity at least to get that clause removed from the match, from the contract, and he can one day challenge again for the AEW title. Now, do you guys think we're going to see any surprises, any returns, any super swerves, anything like that? One idea I have is that I would actually think it would be funny if Jericho showed up. Like if his contract's not up yet, or if AEW froze time or whatever, maybe they bring him back in, or maybe Jericho decides that going to WWE just really wouldn't work out. They're not going to let him do his other interests. He can't narrate Dark Side of the Ring anymore, and there's just too many handcuffs there. So, it was a nice thought. I could go back to the WWE and go into the Hall of Fame, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. I'll go back to AEW. Maybe he turns up here somewhere. I still think Jericho could be at WrestleMania and is going to come back to the WWE once the contractual shit with AEW is done. But you never know. Jericho's one guy that you can never completely bet on because you never know what he's going to do. So maybe he shows up. I'm trying to think who's on the shelf. Ospreay is not ready yet, but he's close. Who else is injured? Of course, Adam Cole we may never see again. We don't know where Britt Baker is. I'm trying to think who else is out in AEW that can maybe turn up. Any free agents out there that could potentially be signed. I don't know, who they could bring out for any sort of major surprise, but you're probably not going to need anything too major. I mentioned the Cope and Christian thing. I think that is possible in the Bucks and FTR match. But overall, you've got a 10-match card here. So this is going to be very jam-packed with wrestling, and you probably don't need to do a whole lot else. I think based on how this looks on paper, it would be really difficult for AEW to fuck this up. This is a good-looking card here, and if you're a fan of wrestling, you should like everything you see tomorrow. So if they shit the bed, I don't know. That's on them. I mean, I don't know how you even do that. It doesn't look like shitting the bed is possible with a card like this, but we're not going to know until after it happens. So I'll be firing up my HBO Max tomorrow and watching Revolution with y'all. Should be fun. All right, let's see what you guys have to say here in the chat, and then I got to get out of here. Oh, there's 5 more from Ryan. This is about WrestleMania. Build to 40, it was Rock. Build to 41, it was Cena. Build to 42, it's Orton. Build to 43, it's Punk who turns on Cody. I really want Punk versus Cody Rhodes. That was one of the matches I wanted this year, so we didn't get it. So I feel like next year's got to be the match you do, especially if who knows what Cody's character is going to look like next year. And Punk, of course, who's got to stay healthy. Everything's got to fall in line for that to happen, but yeah. Punk seems like the next obvious choice for a Cody Rhodes WrestleMania opponent. And I think Cody Rhodes could lose the WWE title in back-to-back Manias to John Cena and Randy Orton. And Randy will now have his, 15th championship, which is wild. Yeah, I might be with you guys. I might be with you on that. Bonkers has Moxley and Tekla going over. I totally could see that. As a matter of fact, Tekla was originally written down, but I think I always had Takeshita in the Mox match. But yeah, Tekla, I originally had her retaining, but now I'm like, it's 2 out of 3 falls. I feel like that favors stat, so I changed. Jay White, there you go. I forgot about Jay White. Keith Lee I've given up on. Nick Wayne, though, as well. Could see Dakota Kai, possibly. Maybe a Killer Cross. Samoa Joe, good point. So Dakota Kai, Killer Cross, Samoa Joe, Jay White, Britt Baker, Brian Cage, Nick Wayne. That's like 7 names there that we could potentially see turn up. I don't think Kenny Omega is going to be there. But he might. No, Martin Jordan, I will not be at Revolution. I did think about it. It was really close to going, but we've been waiting on surgery for Elizabeth, and then there was a strike, and she got it postponed until early April, but there was a chance they could do it earlier. And I don't want to run the risk of getting tickets for Revolution and then turn out she's going to have surgery tomorrow or yesterday. So I did not buy tickets, but the next AEW show, mark my words, at Crypto, I will be there. Or if there's one in San Diego, I will be there. But this one was just a little weird to try to make happen, and I didn't want to stress myself out, so we're going to be here watching it in the crib instead. So, all right, that's going to do it for me. I got to get up out of here, but thanks again for hanging out this afternoon. Check back later tonight. I will have this podcast pushed out to the podcast feed so you can listen over there. And make sure you join us tomorrow because it's going to be a long day. We're going to be watching Revolution, and then we are going to stick around and we are going to review it. So it's going to be a big day. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon, and I'll be catching y'all tomorrow for Revolution. Peace.